All right, YouTube, how you doing? Welcome back to the channel. It is Monday, November 10th. We have a 9-game NBA slate to dive into in today's video like we always do. I'm going to dive into each and every one of these games. I'll give you my prediction on the side. I'll give you my prediction on the total. We'll talk about any other plays like player props that we like within the game as well. But as always, guys, make sure to keep an eye down on the pinned comment of this video. That's where you'll find all of my final plays. So I'm actually rolling with myself. If that does interest you, if you do want to fade me, all of that absolutely free down in the pinned comment. In terms of how we did yesterday, a 1-1 night, so nothing too much to either cry about or write home about. I will say it feels like a really bad night, at least in my dumb brain, because I really did like that Dennis Schroeder play. I even said it in yesterday's video, right? One of my favorite plays on the board. Over 17.5 points plus assists. Dennis Schroeder yesterday finished with, after 28 minutes of play, which is about what I wanted him to get, right? 3 points and 2 assists. I think we're owed a womp womp for that look. Again, it was one of my favorite plays. Luckily, yeah, 0.5 units on both of these plays wasn't all that big of a deal, but man, oh man, it kind of feels like it was. But you know what? The vibes go this way. The vibes go up when we pull out the ride of the day today. Let's pump in some crowd noise from Straight Fire Picks. Kevin Durant over 33.5 PRA. Boom, Kevin Durant goes for 31, 7, and 3. So, yeah, 41 PRA in that spot. Good look from Straight Fire Picks, and you can see here, on a little bit of a streak now. 3 correct picks in a row. We'll see what he tosses our way today. If you guys don't know what the ride of the day is, it is super simple. Just use that hashtag ride of the day down in the comments. I jump on board with one person's play each and every day, at least one person's play, and I give you a shout out in the next video, win or loss. If you do win, we continue to roll and ride with your plays for the following days, as long as you get them right and you keep getting the shout outs and you get placed on the tracker, right? If you do lose, you still get the shout out, but unfortunately we're talking about a loss, and we've been doing some groundbreaking stuff in the Ride of the Day department this season. We're looking for another person to bring on. We've been doing multiple Ride of the Day plays for, I don't know, a week or so now, so looking for one more to add. So tomorrow we'll have 2 Ride of the Days to recap and 2 potential streaks on the run here. So go ahead and get those hashtag Ride of the Days down in the comments. Guys, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Let's jump into game number 1 here. We're looking at the Pistons taking on the Wizards. Pistons coming off of a back-to-back. I will say, I don't know how much that is going to matter when you play a team like the Wizards, but they came off of a nice win yesterday, right? They didn't cover, but they ended up beating the Sixers 111-108. Washington 1-9 on the season. Feels like ages ago that they won their first game. They've lost, I believe, 7 straight in a row. Now, this Pistons team is kind of living and breathing in the paint. Washington, I don't really see how they compete down there. I mean, from a points in the paint perspective, they're 24th in the entire league, going up against Detroit, who is the number 2 team at preventing points in the paint. And Washington's actually shooting in the paint at a top 10 frequency. So not too efficient down there. And speaking of inefficiencies, they're the 28th ranked offense when it comes to offensive efficiency, going up the number 2 defense, going up against, I should say, the number 2 defense in the Pistons, defensive efficiency wise. So yeah, it's a big number, but I think Detroit probably can handle the Washington Wizards today. I'm going to lean towards them. In terms of a total, I don't mind the idea of an under. I just talked about how I think Detroit's defense is good, and, they should be able to kind of take their thumb and squish this Washington offense. But if we flip it over, I know that Washington, in the last 3 games, dead last in defensive efficiency, but on the season, number 2 in terms of worst, so second to last of defensive efficiency. But it's not like Detroit's been this world-beating offense. You know what I mean? In terms of points per game, they're bottom half of the league ranked 18th in terms of offensive efficiency. So yeah, I don't necessarily think that they're going to go out there and score 1,000,000 points. If I already think Washington's going to struggle, the under does make sense to me. This could even be a 121 to 110 game. Detroit wins by 11, and it still stays a few baskets under that 235.5. Now, a player prop spot that I'm looking at, which I think is a slight lean, would be something like Alex Sarr's under. His points right now is at 16.5. I think it's a little bit too high against the Pistons, who have been, top 10 team against centers when it comes to point scoring the last 7 days. I believe they're top 5 team. So I think that Jalen Duren, if Beef Stew plays, he comes in, even just the paint defense in general, I do think that we could see some adversity that Alex Sarr doesn't normally see on a day-to-day basis. Next up, the Hornets taking on the Lakers. This Lakers team has looked pretty good, right? They have some quality wins in there. They're right now 7-3 after 10 games, 8-2 to the over. So I do think that this could be, and we'll get to the over in a second, but could be a spot for an over because neither one of these teams' defense is all that great, but the offenses honestly are two of the top half scoring and efficient teams in the entire league. But let's talk about the side first, right? This is a team that is 7-3 against the number on the road this year. They're 4-1 straight up. So this Lakers team's looking pretty good. Now we want to keep an eye on the injury report. Austin Reeves listed as questionable in this one, but Luka's good to go. Rui Hachimura, DeAndre Ayton, sure, LeBron's still out, Gabe Vincent's still out. But on the other side of things, it's like, hey, we'll up your injuries with an Austin Reeves questionability. And yeah, LaMelo's out, Josh Green is out, Brandon Miller's out, right? Miles Bridges today is questionable. So I think that all signs kind of point towards the Lakers in my head here. Do I think that, they're going to smack them up and win by double digits? No, but that 7.5 is right on the line. In fact, where we have this game pegged in terms of our model, 123 to 115. So yes, like I said, we do like the over in this one, but that's an 8-point Lakers win. That is so tight to this damn 7.5, but it is the direction we're going to lean in. And like I said, I do like the idea of the over. Neither one of these squads runs like in a crazy amount of transition, I would say, but overall, I do think that they are able to score on each other. Like I mentioned, two top half offensive efficiency teams. Lakers ranked 12th and Charlotte ranked 14th, or yeah, I think it's 14th. We have it up in the dashboard here. Yeah, 14th. Lakers on the road this year, a top 10 ranked 9th offense in terms of efficiency. Both these squads bottom 10 in the league in terms of defensive efficiency. So give me the over in this spot. I do think if Miles Bridges plays, he could be in a decent-ish spot. This Lakers squad, not exactly all that great at defending the restricted area. Miles Bridges likes to get in there, but also he'll let those spot-up shots fly, and the Lakers right now, 19th in terms of effective field goal percentage against the catch-and-shoot three, so he's definitely someone I have my eye on. The problem is if he's banged up with a really high line, is it the best place to take him? Not all that sure, right? All right, guys, before we do move on with the rest of the games, I want to talk to you about Epic. If you have not checked out Epic Fantasy yet, I do believe you're missing out on one of the most innovative and fresh DFS apps out there. Why is that? Because you can actually be the house on Epic. Yes, you can fade others' entries, which is really, really cool. They also have easier lines and better payouts than a ton of other apps out there. But I had mentioned the being the house, right? Let me show you that. They also launched a web version, which is absolutely awesome. But the fade 'em section right here, you can come in and say, hey, you know what, Donnie Yayo, I don't think you know ball, buddy. You have Knuppel, more than 16.5 points. Garland, more than 5.5 assists. Devin Booker, more than 20.5 points. All I need if I want to fade this, you take the other side of all of these, but only one of them needs to happen, and you end up getting paid out. So it's a really, really cool app, guys. Go ahead and check it out. Again, that link will be down below in the description as well as the pinned comment. You're gonna get your first deposit matched up to $50, which is great. But what they're also doing, and this is open to everybody, you don't need a big following or anything like that. If you share your lineup entry link, every single time someone copies that link and plays your plays, you get 25 cents. You get 100 people to do that a month, boom, 25 extra bucks in your pocket, right? Go ahead and check it out. Again, that's Epic, link down below in the description, as well as the pinned comment. Let's jump back into these games. Next up, we have the Magic taking on the Blazers. I think this should be a pretty good game here. A decent amount of points most likely will be scored in this. I don't know if it gets to 236, but why I say there's going to be a decent amount of points is because both of these teams are top 10 teams in terms of frequency of shooting in the restricted area. And both of these teams are also not all that great at stopping points in the paint. So far on the road this year, Portland dead last in the league in terms of points in the paint allowed. And Orlando overall this season, 25th ranked in terms of stopping points in the paint. So I do like the idea, I guess I would say, of points, but I just don't know if it gets to 235.5. So I'm kind of on the fence there because these would all be 2-point shots. I almost want to lean towards the under, right? But from a side perspective, I will say, obviously, this Magic team coming off of the loss to the Celtics. That was a 111 to 107 loss yesterday. Portland has the day's rest. They're coming off of a loss to Miami, a 136 to 131 loss. I think this Portland team has been playing really good basketball. That should not be groundbreaking or breaking news or jaw-dropping to anybody. They've definitely done more than anyone would have expected so far, right? They're sitting with a record of 5-4, 6-3 against the number, 2-2 on the road, 3-2 at home. but this is a Magic team that I think is going to start turning the corner. They've won 3 of their last 5 games. They lost to the Celtics. Obviously, that was a tough one there. I believe they pushed in terms of the spread. Atlanta, they got smacked up by, but you know what? I still do believe in the lineup that they have, right? So I'm going to lean towards the Magic in this spot. If this was a much bigger number, like 6.5 or something like that, I would be on Portland. So it's that thin of a margin. Only a couple possessions would separate this in my mind. But like I said, probably slightly lean towards the under as well. Now, player props, haven't done the most amount of digging in this one because I do want to look at people that score in the paint for both squads, but honestly, a lot of the guys are scoring in the paint for both these squads. So maybe it's a Denny Advia type spot, right? If he gets the Paolo Banchero defense, I think Paolo can actually do some damage on him. So maybe that's troublesome in a sense. But I'm looking for either, let's say Franz Wagner, Denny Advia, Paolo Banchero, those guys to be able to score in this spot because I do think we're going to have some easy layups, for lack of a better term, at the rim today. Miami taking on Cleveland. Now, it is definitely worth noting that no Bam, no Tyler Hero, and damn sure no Terry Rozier. So this Miami team is, hanging on by a thread. Starting lineup is going to be Davion Mitchell, Norm Powell, Pele Larson, Andrew Wiggins, and Khalil Ware. It's not the worst offensive or defensive starting lineup right now, right? But when you're going up against Darius Garland, Donovan Mitchell, DeAndre Hunter, Evan Mobley, Jared Allen, that kind of sounds like it's a create a team in comparison, right? So I do think Cleveland deserves to be 7.5-point favorites, but I think Miami's defense is still pretty damn sound. I'm going to lean Miami plus the 7.5 points here, even though they are banged up, but I think they do it via defense. So I'm also leaning towards that under 247.5. Think about it. This could be a 120 to 118 type of a game and still be well under that number. It just seems a little too high for me. Maybe it's because it's too early in the NBA season for me to really get behind like a 250 total and say go over and trust the offense, but I just can't see that. Even if the Cleveland Cavaliers do go out there and score a bunch of points today, like this Heat squad is down Bam, and they've obviously been down Terry for most of the year and Tyler Hero for the entire season, so I do get that they have other guys that can score, but I don't see where the offense fully comes into play, right? Especially looking at Cleveland defensively, like this is a very sound defense, but as are the Heat. So yes, I do think this is going to be an under type game, but that's also kind of correlated as to why I like the Heat, because if this is a lower scoring game than we may think, then I think the Heat can keep this thing to within 8. So give me the under as well as the Heat. I feel like I've said that 10 times now. In terms of where we'd go player prop wise, it's tough because I would also start to consider some unders for players. Like I think that Davion Mitchell and Donovan Mitchell / Darius Garland is going to be a really, really good perimeter battle. He's a really just feisty and really good on-ball defender. Norm Powell, I think that, this is going to be a spot in which you're going to want to shoot on this Cleveland team, not necessarily take it into the paint, right? So maybe some of the shooters on the other side, Norm Powell, Pele Larson, something like that. I do think that we could have some decent spots for them. So yeah, player props, I'm kind of all over the place, but some unders that I'm considering on the Cavs side of things because I'm really putting my trust in this Heat defense, which hopefully that doesn't come back to absolutely bite me, right? Next up, we have the Bulls taking on the Spurs, probably the one that I'm most excited to watch out of all these games tonight, at least up there. This should be a very, very good matchup. We have the 6-3 Bulls, who are still undefeated at home, 5-0, going up against the 7-2 Spurs, and their only 2 losses have come on the road. Now, in terms of these lineups, right, Luke Cornett's questionable, but De'Aaron Fox is listed as good to go, which is just awesome because I still think we've only been like teased with Fox and Wemby, whether it was a little bit last year or obviously a little bit this year. On the other side of things, Kobe White's still out. You have Patrick Williams listed as probable, and then Josh Giddey listed as questionable. So if Giddey doesn't play, that's a massive, massive hit to this Bulls squad. The dude has been balling, right? I still think I like the Spurs for a couple different reasons. Now, let me show you in our Guy Boston NBA dashboard instead of just telling you, because I think we can kind of illustrate it a little bit better. So there's a couple things that make me lean towards the Spurs, right? So first and foremost, this is a Bulls team that is the #1 team frequency-wise in terms of shooting the ball in the paint, not necessarily scoring in the paint. When it comes to scoring in the paint, yeah, they're one of the top 5 teams in the entire league. But if we look right here, the Spurs, right? And again, this Bulls team, that's where they're like shooting a ton in the paint, #1. The Spurs, a 61.4% to their opponents at the rim in the restricted area. That is a crazy good number. Now, this is a Spurs team that's kind of shooting in a couple different ways, right? You know, the corner three, okay, the Bulls still defend that, but in the paint, in the restricted area, the Bulls still defend that. So why do I give such a weight to the Spurs here? Well, one, Wembanyama is single-handedly a guy that can put his arm up and stop the points in the paint, right? But let's dig a little bit deeper here, okay? When it comes to isolation, sure, both these teams are good defensively here. But when you see this, okay, pick and roll ball handler, which they've only done at the 27th most frequent rate so far this season, but getting De'Aaron Fox back is going to have this Spurs team running a ton more pick and roll. Mark my words, he's great out of the pick and roll, right? They're already a very good team, scoring 9th in terms of effective field goal percentage, but it's a way that you can attack the Chicago team. Look at their numbers, just middle of the pack, nothing special against the pick and roll. Okay, let's flip it back up here. Where are the Bulls weak defensively in terms of the catch and shoot as well as the pull-up? Well, they're the number one team against the pull-up jumper effective field goal percentage. Well, that's great. Well, the Spurs only do it at the 5th worst or the 5th least rate, so we don't have to worry about that, right? What about this? Oh, they do catch and shoot jumpers at the 5th highest rate, and 2nd worst in the entire league are the Bulls when it comes to stopping that in terms of effective field goal percentage. So I do think that we have a little bit of a leg up here from this Spurs team, who is healthy, does have De'Aaron Fox back now, and has a lot of versatility in terms of how they can score. Yes, so far this year it's been kind of like either get it to Wemby or shoot some threes. But with De'Aaron Fox back, it gives them a little bit of a driving ability. Another guy that could shoot the threes, obviously, but maybe some of these in-the-paint pull-ups. I do think that gives them, like I said, a little bit more versatility. And by the way, guys, this is the Guy Boston Sports NBA dashboard. Sign up today, GuyBostonSports.com, the members area. You can sign up for the All Sports dashboard, which is normally $10.99 per month, which, by the way, that price is going to be going up shortly after we make some enhancements here, but don't worry about that right now, because you can get your first month for just $4.99 using code EV5, EV5, just 3 characters. Go check it out. Again, that's Guy Boston Sports Dashboard, GuyBostonSports.com. Head to the members area and sign up. So I do like the Spurs. In terms of a total, I've definitely gone, I think I have this game right around, like 235. So I'm going to say over, because I do like the offenses. If Josh Giddey doesn't play, I think it's a massive loss to this Bulls offense, and I'd probably just say, hey, screw it. Spurs team total over. I know I just got finished saying, oh, well, I think that the Bulls can stand up defensively in certain spots, but there's just enough angles for me to see the Spurs, especially with the addition of De'Aaron Fox now, to be able to make baskets out of nothing in a sense. So yes, it's an over lean for me, but maybe a Spurs team total over, if anything. From a player prop perspective, I would say De'Aaron Fox is somewhat of a good look today. And I say somewhat of a good look because we can't just not, acknowledge the fact that he's barely played, right? He has 1 game under his belt this season, and it came against the lowly Pelicans. But the thing that I do like about his position here is we know this Bulls team likes to run, right? They're the 1 or 2 pace team right now. De'Aaron Fox is a guy that can totally run with the best of them. At one point, he was the fastest guy in the entire league. And we just mentioned the pick and roll. He might be damn good out of the pick and roll today. So yeah, it's a little worrisome to take a guy's over, and it's at 25.5 points and assists. I like that. It's a little worrisome though, just because he hasn't played much this season. But other than that, I think he's a perfect type of fit for this game. But again, minutes and all that, somewhat of a concern. All right, we got the Mavs taking on the Bucks. Now, this is totally going to be injury report dependent for me, because I do lean towards the Mavs in this spot. And last time the Bucks had the back-to-back, they played Toronto after Indiana, and it was also on the road, and they got spanked by 28 points, right? I think that's obviously worth noting. Giannis played just 23 minutes in that game. It was not a good scene. So I'm almost willing to think, okay, if it's a back-to-back, they're coming off a really tough loss. They came down to the wire loss, right, against Houston yesterday. I don't necessarily love the idea of the Bucks in this spot, so I do lean Mavs. But I mentioned the injury report. Daniel Gafford and Anthony Davis, Anthony Davis. Why was that hard for me to say? Whatever. Anthony Davis, both of those guys are questionable here in this spot. Derek Lively, doubtful. We're looking at their 1, 2, and 3 centers, essentially, or big men, all doubtful. And why is that important? Well, Milwaukee likes to score in the paint, right? Yes, they'll shoot the corner 3 and some spot ups, but they like to get to the paint and score, and that does not surprise anyone because their best player is named Giannis Antetokounmpo, right? So yeah, I think that this could be a spot in which we consider looking at the Mavs, but I realistically would want to sit there and make sure that Anthony Davis is playing, make sure Daniel Gafford's playing. This number at +1.5 would tell me that they are, because I would have honestly, even with the back-to-back, would have pegged Milwaukee a couple points better. But yeah, it's going to be a Mavericks lean for me. In terms of the total, so this Mavericks defense kind of surprised me because at first I wasn't really loving it. And, all of a sudden I look at it and it's like, wow, we're like 10 games into the year and they're the 4th best defensive efficiency team and they're allowing the 8th fewest points. Now their offense is crap, we get that. But if I think the Mavericks hang into this one, it's very similar to how we liked the Heat, right? I think that this is going to be a game that the Mavericks play some defense. Again, broken record, Anthony Davis, Daniel Gafford, Derek Glass, like all of these names, we want to make sure at least Anthony Davis. Did I say Edwards? Anthony Davis is playing. But either way, I think that Dallas kind of wins this one or keeps it close via their defense, which leads me right into an under. Player prop wise, don't have too much for you in this one. Both these teams really do cover the perimeter pretty well. So maybe, just maybe, if you want to take a peek at some of the unders for guys like, Gary Trent or even PJ Washington, who, should be good if Anthony Davis doesn't play, but he'll take a lot of those spot up kind of corner threes and whatnot. I think both of the perimeter's defenses are pretty sound here. Jazz taking on the Timberwolves. One of the, bigger things to note here is Walker Kessler, right? I think it's season ending, but he's having surgery. So Walker Kessler, who I think was primed, and I'd said it multiple times, I'm glad we took his over when we did, but I thought he was primed for a breakout, fantastic type season, and boom, see you later, pal. So now it's Yusuf Nurkic in that spot, and I do think that there are some playmakers on this Utah Jazz team, but not to the level of competing with Anthony Edwards, Julius Randle, or anything like that just yet, I guess. I mean, Lauri Markkanen, yes, I believe he can, but ultimately, I think that the Minnesota Timberwolves are a much better team, and they have a much higher ceiling, like when they scored, 140 plus in their last game here. Now, the Jazz defense really does struggle, so I like the idea of Minnesota scoring a bunch of points in this one, whether they pull away with that 7.5 point win, so 8-point win or not. I'm not all that sure, but I think a Minnesota team total over could be something that I kind of prioritize here. So in doing so, yeah, I'll lean towards the T-Wolves, but that's still a big number. I just think that the Jazz do have some guys that can score, but the ceiling's just really high for Minnesota. So to me, I play that ceiling. Give me their team total over. From a player prop perspective, I do think that we're going to have a decent amount of isolation opportunities against this Utah team, which obviously in the isolation, Anthony Edwards, who I also don't think that I'd be backing a Minnesota team total over if I didn't like, the idea of Anthony Edwards scoring a bunch of points either. Now, his line's at 27.5. That's obviously a pretty damn big line, especially when this year he's only averaged 25.5. But if he comes off the pick and roll, the isolation, or even hell, the spot up shots or the pull up spot shots, this should be a good spot for him. So I do like him, but I get it. 27.5 is high. And I don't know if you guys have picked up on this, but as we've kind of been in the infancy of this NBA season, I've been pretty scared. Honestly, scared is a good word, or hesitant. Maybe that makes me sound more manly, of being able of pulling the trigger on some of these crazy high lines. 27.5 points, something like that, right? Been pretty damn hesitant. We've been looking for some lower lines, lower hanging fruit in a sense, but I do think it's a good spot for him today. I do. Suns taking on the Pels. This Suns team has been kind of shocking. They've now won 4 of their last 5 games against the Spurs, twice against the Clippers. Now, it was a banged up Clippers, sure, but hell, I mean, I got to give credit where it's due, right? This is a team that looked like they had no chance of doing anything in their first few games, and poof, they're looking good. Now, in this one, looks like Jalen Green is going to miss. Like I've said multiple times when talking about the Suns, Jalen Green is going to be a big piece of this team because he allows them another guy to isolate and come off screens and stuff like that. I don't know if you need that against the Pelicans, though, right? Like, this is a Pelicans team that is just really bad defensively. The 3rd worst defensive efficiency ranked team in the entire league. They're not early defending the paint, which in the paint outside of the restricted areas, the Suns are top 5 frequency team, so that's going to be tough, right? You have guys like Ryan Dunn, Mark Williams, who should be pretty damn good today. So I'm going to lean Suns, laying the 8 points. I don't mind a Pelicans team total under or a Suns team total over. You can tell I'm kind of caught in between of an over and under there because I think one team can perform pretty well, and the other team, I really don't see where the points necessarily come from. So I guess Suns team total over I like a little bit more, but I think Mark Williams can eat in this one. I mean, his last game he had 19 points. That was on 9 shots. Do I think he's going to get that again? Not necessarily, but I do like the idea of him being able to score on this Pelicans team who's allowing plenty of points to the opposing center, and for him to go out there and score 14 points, you're getting minus 130 odds. You can get 14.5 if you want 15 plus for plus money. Seems like something that I could potentially get behind, I guess. So yeah, give me Mark Williams over 13.5 points, and like I said, Suns and their team total over. Actually, let me add in, because I didn't know the odds were here at -105. I don't mind Mark Williams for a double-double either. I mean, him for over 9.5 rebounds is -160. Him for 9.5 points is like -250. So it's like both of those are heavily juiced towards him getting double digits in those categories, right? I don't mind his double-double here either. I mean, so far this season, he's done that in 50%, 4 out of 9 games, so just under 50% of his games. Yeah, that might be something we consider as well. So Mark Williams is a spot that I'm considering today. All right, last game on today's slate. If you guys made it this far in the video, go ahead and comment 25 down below. I tell you guys all the time, but it's not just you commenting a number or anything like that. It definitely tells me, hey, I made it this far in the video, which is really cool as we make these videos. And I intend for people to watch the videos, not skip around and all that. I know it's social media attention spans and all that. People are going to skip around, but I do cherish the kind of the fact that some people do just stick around and spend some time with me each and every day, right? So comment 25 if you made it this far in the video. Let's dive into this one. We have the Clips taking on the Hawks. Obviously, injuries are going to be important to note here. Kawhi Leonard out. Bradley Beal's questionable. James Harden looks like he is good to go, though. No Trae Young still. In terms of Jalen Johnson, he's actually listed as questionable. I think Nickeil Alexander-Walker was also questionable. Maybe that has now changed. But either way, point is still there. That a bunch of injuries to note in this one. Now, the Clippers have lost 4 straight games. They're now 3-6. Their 3 wins have come at home, but still 3-6, not all that great, right? And they're laying 4.5 points here. I don't know. I think this could be a close game. I think it could be a low-scoring game. I think the Hawks at +4.5 would be my move here. This Clippers defense hasn't been all that tremendous. In fact, the Hawks have a better defensive efficiency rating this season. The Hawks are also way better at covering both the paint and the perimeter. So, yeah, I mean, I like the Hawks. It will come down to, at least for me, whether I do lock it in or anything like that, if Jalen Johnson plays. I'm not looking to back a Hawks team with, Alexander Walker, Dyson Daniels, Richache, Kristaps, compared to, I guess, a Zubac, James Harden. If Bradley Beal plays, I think that he still has some gas in the tank. Maybe he does kind of stink now, but you know what I mean? Like, there is a part of me that's like, we do need Jalen Johnson. We need a go-to guy to be able to get some buckets, right? So I'm going to keep an eye on that, but I do lean Hawks. Definitely, if Jalen Johnson plays, that's got a strong chance of being a final play. Now, Jalen Johnson, from a points perspective, this is what I do, like 21.5 points for plus money today. He's shooting the ball like 15 times per game, right? In terms of, the last 5 games here, he's looked pretty damn good, right? Averaging 21.2, attempting again 15 times per game, but he's shooting 60% from the field. He's not taking many threes, but he's shooting 33% there and 80% from the foul line. So I think this could be a decent enough spot. We saw Royce O'Neal have a good scoring night. Dylan Brooks have a good scoring night. Royce O'Neal in that first game against the Clippers dropped 17 on them, right? Ryan Dunn, Simone Fontecchio, Andrew Wiggins, some of these guys that play similar-ish position to him do like to drive and all that. And again, maybe Jalen gets a couple threes today because some of those guys are shooters. That helps out his point total. So yeah, I lean in the direction of him. But if he doesn't play, it really does kind of pull the rug on this entire game. But I think this could be a low-scoring game where that 4.5 points come up really clutch. So I'll lean towards the under in this spot as well. Guys, it's going to wrap it up for today's show. Hopefully you guys did enjoy. If you did, you know what I'm going to ask you to do, right? Hit that damn like button, hit that subscribe button, and we'll catch you guys in the next one, all right? Peace out.